Just let me get one thing done and I shall continue. For today, if you don't know, there's a solidarity vigil for Julian Assange in different parts of the world, where they're actually going to places in the city to hold their vigil. So it's not an online one, although when you're in the middle of nowhere, you kind of have to do what you can. So I am trying to do what I can from here, and it won't be much, and it won't be that long, at least right now. This is going to be just part one. It'll be for about an hour, and I have to go do some stuff. My daughter has to go to dentist, and I shall be back later to do more coverage on it. The interesting thing right now is I don't think it says it's live, but I think we're getting cut off here. It's not being shown to the public. That's fine. It's still on DTube or DLive. DLive is covering it. I haven't even eaten anything today, so you're gonna have to excuse me. While I'm doing this, I'll be munching on some things. Now, let's see. First thing, I'm gonna try to find some coverage that's easily found through Twitter. So you're gonna see me sharing a couple of things and just kind of going through, and I have seen a couple of things on so far, and we'll continue. So one of the things, and I'll share this info on the live chat. It's basically a link to where these vigils are being held and people who are hosting it, and I'll go ahead and put it in the description box in YouTube. So if you're on DLive, you're gonna have to go to YouTube to find it. Sorry about that. Okay, we'll go through Twitter first. Do a search for Julian Assange. Here's something that WikiLeaks posted a day ago, where they're posting a video of how UN warned about Julian Assange's situation. Let's go ahead and watch that first.
As underlined in your report, deprivation of liberty takes many forms. This includes the confinement suffered by WikiLeaks publisher Julian Assange in the Ecuadorian embassy in London. As the Working Group on Arbitrary Detention has found, his confinement constitutes indefinite and unlawful detention. For 6 years now, Mr. Assange has been inside the embassy without sunlight or outdoor access and unable to obtain proper medical attention. Ecuador's embassy, through no fault of its own, is not equipped to provide this. But if he leaves the embassy to seek medical treatment, the British authorities have made clear that he will be arrested. Ecuador granted Mr. Assange asylum and protection because of his legitimate fear of persecution if extradited to the United States to face prosecution for his publishing activities with WikiLeaks. This risk remains. The current US administration has said that prosecuting him is a priority and that he will not benefit from constitutional free speech protections. He cannot leave the embassy in the UK because the UK will not recognise the protection that Ecuador has granted him or provide assurances against extradition to the United States. Doctors confirm that his protracted confinement is having a severe impact on his physical and mental health. The UK shows deliberate disregard for his medical needs by forcing him to choose between his human right to asylum and his human right to medical treatment. No one should ever have to make this choice. We call upon the Special Rapporteur to give immediate attention to Mr Assange's case, to plan an official visit to the Ecuador Embassy, and to urge the UK to give the assurances required for him to leave the Embassy and to obtain the medical treatment that he requires. Thank you.
Okay, that was pretty cool. Someone has to speak up. I'm glad she did it. I'm trying to find any videos right now, and I thought I did. Here we go. Channel 9 news coverage of June 19th Melbourne Solidarity Vigil for Julian Assange. Here we go.
Julian Assange's father was among a group of supporters who rallied outside the British consulate in Melbourne today, urging the federal government to get the WikiLeaks founder safely out of the UK. The demonstration was part of a global day of protest, marking Assange's 6th anniversary of living in the Ecuadorian embassy in London.
Bring Julian Assange home. This matter lies with the British government, it lies with the Australian government, and it lies with those countries which truly believe in freedom of speech.
The Australian-born campaigner refuses to leave over fears he'll be extradited to the United States for questioning about WikiLeaks. Finance and President Trump's growing tariff confrontation.
Thank you for covering that, Channel 9. That's short, but at least it was covered. Here's the one with John Poger.
The persecution.
This was at the Sydney Town Hall on June 17th. It wasn't on the 19th today.
The final speaker today is journalist and filmmaker John Pilger. From the very outset, John Pilger was one of the first to recognise the significance of WikiLeaks as a counterweight to the increasingly corporatised and sanitised establishment media. Since the persecution of Julian Assange escalated in late 2010, John Pilger has remained at the forefront of his defence. John is on the board of the Courage Foundation, an important international organisation committed to the defence of all journalists and whistleblowers who have come under attack by governments and state authorities. His most recent documentary, The Coming War on China, exposes what were behind the scenes but are now increasingly open plans and preparations by the United States for a war against China. A war that would carry the danger of escalation into a nuclear catastrophe. This rally has been organised, publicised and built with John's active support, for which we extend to him our sincerest thanks. Please give him a very warm welcome.
Thank you for coming for Julian, and thank you to the SEP for organising this very important rally. The persecution of Julian Assange must end. Or it will end in tragedy. The Australian Government and Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull have an historic opportunity to decide which it will be. They can remain silent, for which history will be unforgiving. or they can act in the interests of justice and humanity and bring this remarkable Australian citizen home. Julian does not seek special treatment. The Australian government has clear diplomatic and moral obligations to protect its citizens abroad from gross injustice. In Julian's case, from a gross miscarriage of justice and the extreme danger that await him should he walk out of the Ecuadorian embassy in London unprotected. We know from the Chelsea Manning case what Julian can expect if a US extradition warrant is successful. The United Nations has called it torture. I know Julian well. I regard him as a close friend, a person of extraordinary resilience and courage. I've watched a tsunami of lies and smear engulf him endlessly, vindictively, perfidiously, and I know why they smear him. In 2008, a plan to destroy both WikiLeaks and Julian was laid out in a secret document dated 8th of March 2008. The authors were the Cyber Counterintelligence Assessment Branch of the US Defense Department. They described in detail how important it was to destroy, and I quote, the feeling of trust that that is WikiLeaks' center of gravity. This would be achieved, they wrote, with threats of exposure and criminal prosecution, and an unrelenting assault on reputation. The aim was to silence and criminalize WikiLeaks and its editor and publisher. It was as if they planned a war on a single human being and on the very principle of freedom of speech. Their weapon would be personal smear and their assassins will be journalists. The very people who were meant to keep the record straight and tell us the truth.
Fake news, God!
The irony is that no one has told these journalists what to do. I call them Vichy journalists, after the treacherous Vichy government that served the German occupation of wartime France. I've been a journalist for many years. I've never known such corruption of my craft. It is as if a world of illusions has consumed the last vestiges of honest media in the cause of decaying power, its wars and witch hunts. Let me give you one example. Last October, the ABC journalist Sarah Ferguson interviewed Hillary Clinton, over whom she fawned as I quote, the icon of your generation. This was the same Clinton who threatened to obliterate Iran and who, as US Secretary of State in 2011, was one of the instigators of the invasion and destruction of Libya as a modern state with the loss of 40,000 lives. Like the invasion of Iraq, it was based on lies. When the Libyan president was murdered publicly and gruesomely with a knife, Clinton whooped and cheered. Thanks largely to her, Libya became a breeding ground for ISIS and other jihadists. Thanks largely to her, tens of thousands of refugees fled in peril across the Mediterranean, and many of them drowned.
She's a criminal, John!
In leaked emails, published by WikiLeaks, we know that Hillary Clinton's foundation received millions of dollars from Saudi Arabia and Qatar, the main backers of ISIS and terrorism across the Middle East. From these disclosures, we know that as Secretary of State, Clinton approved the biggest arms deal ever, $80 billion worth. Today, Saudi Arabia is using these weapons to crush the starving and stricken people of Yemen. Sarah Ferguson, a highly paid ABC reporter, raised not a word of this, with Hillary Clinton sitting in front of her. Instead, she allowed Clinton to attack and smear Julian Assange as, and I quote, a tool of Russian intelligence and a nihilistic opportunist who does the bidding of a dictator. Julian was offered no right of reply to this shocking interview, this orgy of defamation broadcast by Australia's publicly funded state broadcast.
Follow the money!
As if this wasn't enough, Ferguson's executive producer, Sally Neighbour, followed the interview with a vicious retweet. Assange is Putin's bitch. We all know it. This is what I mean by corruption. This is what I mean by fishy journalism. It was an insult to the very meaning of journalism. There are many other examples. The Guardian, reputedly once a great liberal newspaper, has conducted a vendetta against Julian Assange. Like a spurned lover, The Guardian has aimed its personal, petty, inhuman and cowardly attacks at a man whose work it once published and profited from. It is as if Julian has been declared fair game and too poor to sue for defamation. The former editor of The Guardian called the WikiLeaks disclosures, which his newspaper published in 2010, one of the greatest journalistic scoops of the last 30 years. Awards were lavished on the paper as if Julian did not exist. WikiLeaks revelations became part of The Guardian's marketing plan to raise the newspaper's cover price. They made money, often big money, while WikiLeaks and Julian struggled to survive.
It's all about the money,
With not
John.
a penny going to WikiLeaks, a hype Guardian book led to a lucrative Hollywood movie deal. The book's authors, Luke Harding and David Lee, gratuitously abused Assange as a damaged personality and callous. They also revealed the secret password Julian had given The Guardian in confidence and which was designed to protect a digital file containing the US Embassy cables. With Julian trapped in the Ecuadorian embassy, Luke Harding of The Guardian, who had made big bucks on the back of Julian and Edward Snowden, stood among the police outside the embassy and gloated on his blog that Scotland Yard may get the last laugh. This is how far the craft of journalism has sunk. Vichy journalism. The question is why? Julian Assange has committed no crime. He has never been charged with a crime. The Swedish episode was bogus and farcical, and he has been vindicated. Karen Ackelson and Lisa Longstaff of Women Against Rape summed it up when they wrote, and I quote them, "The allegations against Assange are a smokescreen behind which a number of governments are trying to clamp down on WikiLeaks for having audaciously revealed to the public their secret planning of wars and occupations and their attendant rape, murder and destruction. The authorities care so little about violence against women that they manipulate rape allegations at will," unquote. Most of this truth was lost or buried in a media witch hunt that disgracefully associated Julian with rape and misogyny. The witch hunt included voices who described themselves as on the left and as feminist. Shame on them. Throughout this smear campaign, the threat of Julian's extradition to a hellhole in the US was willfully ignored. documents released by Edward Snowden show Julian to be on what is called a manhunt target list. One leaked memo, official memo, reads as follows, and I quote, "Assange is going to make a nice bride in prison. Screw the terrorists, he'll be eating cat food forever." In Alexandria, Virginia, the suburban home of America's war-making elite, a secret grand jury, a throwback to the Middle Ages, has spent 7 years trying to concoct a crime for which Julian Assange can be prosecuted. But this isn't easy, because the US Constitution protects publishers, journalists, and whistleblowers. Julian's crime is that he broke a silence. No investigative journalism in my lifetime can equal the importance of what WikiLeaks has done and the public service it has provided in calling rapacious power to account. Julian and WikiLeaks have pushed back a one-way moral screen to reveal that imperialism, our imperialism, the often disguised imperialism of liberal democracies, is never benevolent or moral as it contrives to appear, as it's presented so often in the media, but committed to endless warfare, to the conquest of our resources, our lives, our dignity, if we allow it. When Harold Pinter, the great playwright, accepted the Nobel Prize for Literature in 2005, he referred to a vast tapestry of lies upon which we feed. He asked why, and I quote, "The systematic brutality, the widespread atrocities, the ruthless suppression of independent thought of the Soviet Union was well known in the West, while American imperial crimes, quote, never happened. Even while they were happening, they never happened." He was referring to the Great Silence. Julian and WikiLeaks have smashed this silence and exposed how the imperial game is played by those with liberal pretensions. Their revelations have lifted the mask of those who regard whole nations in terms of their usefulness or expendability. And that is why his life is in danger.
They're criminals, John!
7 years ago, here in Sydney, I arranged to meet a prominent Liberal member of the Federal Parliament, Malcolm Turnbull. I asked him to deliver an urgent appeal from Julian's lawyer to the government of Julia Gillard. Turnbull and I talked for several hours about Julian and his right to justice. He seemed sympathetic. We also talked about Turnbull's famous victory in the 1980s, when as a young lawyer he had fought the British government's attempts to suppress free speech and prevent the publication of the book Spycatcher, in a way a WikiLeaks of the time, for it revealed the crimes of great power. When I met Turnbull, the Labour Prime Minister, Julia Gillard, had declared WikiLeaks illegal and wanted to cancel Julian's passport, in effect his birthright, until she was told she couldn't do it. She was told by the AFP she couldn't do it, that Julian had committed no crime, that WikiLeaks was a publisher whose work was protected under Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, to which Australia was one of the original signatories. In abandoning Julian Assange, an Australian citizen, and colluding in his persecution, Gillard's outrageous behaviour forced the issue of Julian's recognition under international law as a political refugee. Tiny Ecuador invoked the 1951 convention and granted Julian refuge in the embassy in London. There was no question under international law that his life was in danger. Julia Gillard has recently been appearing with Hillary Clinton as pioneering feminists. It's reassuring to know that political satire is back. In these gigs, Gillard has not referred to her distinction as the first Prime Minister on whose watch Australian soldiers were killed in Afghanistan. We know from WikiLeaks war logs the atrocious nature of that imperial war in Afghanistan. If there's anything to remember Gillard by, it is a sycophantic, embarrassing speech she made to the US Congress soon after she demanded the illegal cancellation of Julian's passport. Is that how we'll remember Malcolm Turnbull? Julian's father has written to Malcolm Turnbull just the other day. It is a moving letter in which he has appealed to the Prime Minister to bring Julian home. He refers to the real possibility of a tragedy. I have watched Julian's health deteriorate in the years of confinement without sunlight. He has a relentless cough, but is denied safe passage to and from a hospital for even an X-ray. The Australian government has the diplomatic power to intervene. For years, the governments in Canberra offered no help to Julian. Now the responsibility of the Turnbull government could not be clearer. It goes to the very heart of human justice and morality. Malcolm Turnbull can remain silent, or he can seize the opportunity and fulfill his government's obligations and defend the life of a man who is a true Australian hero. He can bring Julian Assange home. The choice is his. Thank you.
Okay, so there's I probably have at the most 30 minutes left, so I'm just gonna kind of go through a couple of these.
I'd like to welcome all of you and commend
and see if there's any coverage on it on the hosts page. Okay, nothing there. Open up your sheets. Let's try it. Alright, I'm gonna have to copy and paste it. Here we go. Here's some pictures. About 13 photos. There was a Channel 9 coverage, like I just showed earlier. Let's go and show the pictures. I'll go ahead and read some of the captions, I guess. As open microphone participant, Barrister Greg Barnes, advisor to WikiLeaks and Julian Assange and prominent campaigner for Julian's freedom. John Shipton, Julian Assange's father, passing on his thanks to the crowd for coming to the protest. Shirle Shackleton, widow of Greg Shackleton of the Malibu 5. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Longtime campaigner for social justice and author speaking passionately to demand Julian's freedom. Another open microphone participant. Open mic participant. Same here. Okay. This one is hosted by Simone Rogan. I don't see anything yet. This one is in Dublin. We'll see if there's anything there. Sense of outrage. I can't tell. Maybe it's Twitter. We'll try it. I don't see anything. Oh, here we go. There's something. It may not have happened yet. I don't know. Here's something about accounts. Oh, I think this is San Diego primary election stuff. Okay, never mind. Let's see. So it may not have happened yet. We'll see what's going on here. I'll go ahead and put this follow. Let's see. This is in the UK. Oh, yeah, I already went to this page. Still nothing that I see here. Oh boy, what's up with that? Alright. Clarion O'Reilly in London, UK. Or Sierra O'Reilly. I have no idea. Oops. No. I have no idea what I just did. There's a couple more photos. Ah, there's Caitlin Johnstone. I wonder if Caitlin has got some photos too. Couple more photos here. Let's see. Here's a video, 28 seconds long. Let's go ahead and give it a watch.
Assange! Free Julian 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 Assange!
I wish there was a lot more numbers out there. Doesn't seem to be. Okay, anything else from here? Alright, let's go. Let's see. Oh, there's a text. I think it's fine. This is a public document. Just find it weird. Okay. This is hosted by Alex Hills and 3 others. Ooh, they're doing kind of a march. That's pretty cool. Going from the Australian High Commission to the Embassy of the United States. This is a good idea. I like this guy. To the British High Commission in Wellington. I hope that was a good, nice picture. That's pretty cool. Julian home, free Assange kitten. Like, now that's a good idea to get something to light up in front, and you know, the projector. That's a really good idea. If I'm ever in a march, or anyone else is in a march, that's something that you can do. I like it. I like it. A different picture. Okay, this one is Amanda Vickers. This is again a few days ago. How's it going, Dave? Quick question for you, Dave. I have to go and take my daughter to the dentist in a bit. Would you want to take over and keep this going? Otherwise, I don't know if you're busy or not.
Well, what time is it?
It's 2 p.m. in Central Time. 3 p.m.
So
Eastern.
I could do it for a couple more hours.
Okay, that'd be awesome. And
Yeah.
I'll be back after I take her to the doctor. Anyways, I'm gonna share this, and I'll give you some links that you can do to see if there's anything that you can share for any videos or photos that you find on the Assange worldwide. Oh, you already got it. All right.
It also is. Yeah, thanks, Alex. As we've already heard, Julian Assange has committed absolutely no crime, but he's been charged with that. And the Swedish episode was just a bogus red herring. The US Constitution protects publishers and journalists and whistleblowers, but his crime was just to have broken the silence and provided, shown that we are complicit by failing to speak out against illegal wars and the attacks on this journalist who's actually provided the real truth and the deceit of Western governments. There's no investigative journalism in our lifetime who's equalled the importance in terms of the information he has provided through WikiLeaks. He's called rapacious power to account. He's shown that our governments are supporting 70% of the military dictatorships around the world, including Saudi Arabia, which has an appalling record in terms of human rights and the treatment of women. It also is attacking on behalf of United States Yemen, and we know that millions of people are at threat now in Yemen of starvation because they're closing the last port there, which is providing the humanitarian aid. At the same time, the drone execution that we don't really hear of innocent people all through the Middle East and any part of the world. Malcolm Turnbull can remain silent, or he can seize this opportunity and use his government's diplomatic influence to defend the life of an Australian citizen, a really top Australian citizen whose courageous public service is recognised by countless people across the world. He can bring Julian Assange home, and that's what we ask him to do right now.
Yeah, good speech. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, I just wanted to introduce Dave, who goes by the name of Independent Outsider. If you guys don't know of him, does a lot of stuff. He actually went to the Vigil in Boston, Massachusetts 2 days ago. So if you want to share anything from there, you know, you've got 2 videos. I think you did. There's one with Deb.
What I have started, I started a hashtag. What I do when I start Twitter hashtags is I see if they're already owned. I started a hashtag called Assange Worldwide. So if anybody is going to a rally or a vigil, feel free to post to that hashtag. I put a couple of videos, one from the Boston rally and one of Christians as well. So anyone who is brave enough to film this, and it is a brave thing to do. It's not just, oh, I'm going to take my family. This is a picnic.
Yeah.
You know, there is a possibility of repercussions. So
you know what we should do?
I applaud everybody.
You know what we should do? When I get back, when we have time, I'll find anything that has to do with the vigil that's going around worldwide and retweet it, but using the Assange worldwide. That way people can view all the photos, view all the videos. And just...
I also put it on Discord, and I put it on I put it in one of Susie's tweets as well. Feel free, if there's an existing hashtag, feel free to let me know. I'll promote that hashtag as well. Yeah. Things are getting weird on Twitter. I got a Twitter warning, like, you're doing something weird. So
okay,
you're absolutely right. Be weird.
All right, so I've got 15 minutes, and then Dave will take over. I'm just gonna keep sharing. That's okay. It's just what I find.
Sure. When will you be back? So I know.
It might be. So I'll leave in about 20 minutes. So I might be back in an hour, 20 minutes, depending on how long the dentist.
And how? And is there anything? I don't want to post anything or share anything.
Do whatever you want, man.
Get you. Oh no! Don't give me that license.
The topic is just to try to cover Julian Assange vigils around the world. Anything that you find.
I would ask you if it's okay to post any CNN news.
Go ahead.
But I don't think there is any.
Yeah, I don't think there is any either. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. And this one, so this is the Assange worldwide hashtag that Dave, you were just talking about. So when I get back, I will add more stuff to it. Let's see. Right now, I'm just trying to go through this and see if anyone's done anything yet. I mean, still, it's a little bit early. As you can see, we've gotten to the U.S. And the U.S., no one has really gotten to do anything yet. Washington, D.C. might have started, so I'll just check that one out. And then as we go through Chicago, I don't know what time they'll have anything, but I can check. Because it seems like a lot of it starts at 2 p.m. or 4 p.m. So we'll see.
Well, the weird thing is, I would think that California might have one, maybe in LA or San Francisco. And it should have started already because of the time zone.
Yeah. So this one's supposed to happen at 4:30 to 6:30. So that won't happen for another 2.5 hours.
Have you heard anything from Christian? I saw that he did a couple of tests and things of that.
I saw a test too, but I haven't seen anything else yet.
I didn't see him, any police presence or anything like that.
Well, I only saw him getting on the bus, so I don't know if there's anything else yet.
I don't think so either. I think he's on his way.
Let's see. Not seen anything yet on here. Videos.
Bernie Bridges, really?
So that was supposed to be Chicago. Kelly Lane, if we see anything from her, she's doing something from Washington, D.C. She was traveling there last night.
Curious to know if there's anything in Baltimore.
Is there anything in Baltimore, just in Baltimore?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Oh, we just went here. There's still nothing. Oh, yeah, that doesn't start till.
And I know the anti-war rally was in Richmond. I don't think there's anything in Richmond. It's too.
Okay, there's something here. You want to see it? It's Lee Stranahan. They're not at the thing. They're just talking about it.
No, that's fine. That's absolutely that's awesome.
I'll let you handle it if you want to. It's 20 minutes. I probably only have 10 minutes left, so I just want to find some short.
Yeah.
So this one, all I did was just do a search for Julian Assange to find anything. Let's see. There's been anything here.
And oddly enough, again, it's probably my my lack of tech savvy. My sound has been down for a long time, so I've been streaming from my Samsung Galaxy. So
okay,
yeah.
Here's this one is Randy Credico. Vigil just underway under the Union Jack on 3rd Avenue in support of Julian Assange. Let's see. Seems like a decent line of people. Going to Randy Credico. See if he's posted any more pictures yet. Not yet. But we might see some.
It's incredible. You have Randy Credico, and it looks like it's only like 30 or 40 people.
I know.
It really is incredible.
I mean, it is a work day, Tuesday.
Right, and also on Sunday it was Father's Day.
Yeah.
So it was kind of tough. How dare you talk about one man when all these fathers out there? Seriously, I heard that one. Okay. While you're queuing things up, if I'm gonna hold down the fort for a little while, I'm gonna take a restroom break. I'll be right back.
All right.
And then I'll take now. Do you have a link to that Excel file? Or
yeah, I put it in the live chat, and it's also in the Zoom chat.
Okay, cool.
You may have to go to Google Sheets to copy and paste, or to go to the Facebook areas. All right, go ahead. So this one is DM25.
Be right back.
Okay. Picture. Let's see if there's anything else. Pictures. Oh, here we go. 39 snippet. 39
Every moment he will step out of. He's here only because of one reason. Because the very moment he will step out of this embassy, he would probably end up in a cage similar to the pictures, to the dystopian pictures we are seeing these days on television. He would probably end up in a cage similar to Guantanamo. So we are here today because of one reason. And this reason is that we are asking the UK government to guarantee that Julian Assange, if he exits the Ecuadorian embassy, wouldn't be extradited to the United States. He's here only because of one reason.
Okay, that was good. And oh, here we go. Here's the Courage Foundation. Huh, I'm not. Here's a picture. Now in London, rally for Julian Assange on 6th anniversary of his detention. That was an hour ago. Now let's look at more here. Let's go to Courage Foundation. Let's see if there's anything here. Ooh, that looks like a pretty good crowd. I like that. Okay, here's one in London live. Free Julian Assange on WikiLeaks. This is Kitty. Let's see. Awesome. What? Live event is over. Alright. I mean, we could get this going for 2 hours. Oh, I did not know. Let's sub. And look. And this is RT. RT is the only one covering it. Are you serious? So.
Well, I mean, of course they are. Those Russians.
Yeah. So this event is over. If you want to go to Rupley, it looks like they live streamed it. a couple of demonstrations occurring just right outside the embassy, the UK Ecuadorian embassy. It just.
Did you do me a favor? Post that link in here, and I'll just copy and paste it.
Sure.
Also, to anyone watching chat, I'm not in chat right this second. I will while we're setting things up.
I will. So that link, direct link, was here, and if you guys on live chat want to see that link, I will post it. All right, I think. Here we go.
And how long is this coverage?
I think it looked like over 2 hours.
Oh, okay.
But when they're live, the YouTube starts processing it, so we don't know if it'll still be there.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, I should probably get going.
This is a great father, everybody. To celebrate Father's Day, he's taken his
a couple days late.
A couple days late. Don't slam him too much. Go ahead, take your kid to the dentist.
I'll be back later.
Okay.
You've got the con.
All right. Everyone's fine. No, I'm just playing. All right, so let me see here. Oh, let me get in YouTube here, or the Google rather. Okay. So I'm going to share this. Where are we at? And I'll keep an eye on this, make sure that it keeps running. This is one of many Assange rallies / vigils. And this is through Rupley. So make sure that this is all right. And if anyone wants to come on, I'm going to be checking Evans as well. So I don't want anybody feeling left out. Pretty much, I would think most people are. All right. Okay. I'm going to mute myself.
Dave, anyways, I'm on my way, but driving. But if you go to the live chat, I put in a link. Christian just uploaded or went live and uploaded a video of people gathering. He's actually there with Randy Credico. I'm not sure if you'll get a chance to talk with him or not. So you're muted, remember? Oh my goodness.
I hadn't done this in a while. The last one, I'm just replacing the old guy. The last one is the chat is Christians.
Yeah, Jordan, you can click on that and show that he's covering some of it with his phone.
Is there a way? Oh, he could call in if he wanted to.
Yeah, he could. He could also do that and show us live. I'll text him when I get a chance.
Yeah, if he wants to come in, the doorbell's working. So.
Yeah. Okay. But he uploaded a video. If you want to go and share that to people.
I'm going to do it right now.
All right. Cool. I'll see you in a bit.
Yep. Oh, wait a minute. Very interesting. Where am I? Oh, there we are. Okay. Not the greatest transition in the world, but we just went from Christians to now the abruptly footage.
a father and a man for my son, for justice from this land makes and it fakes, that shakes the scales of justice so that none can be had, so that none can be had. Giuseppe Collin died 1981 in a British prison. Rest in peace. Thanks very much.
See if there's any post pictures yet. Not yet. So.
Okay, hold on. There we go. Cut it out. Dang it. Hold on, guys. Okay, I'm going to go back to the beginning.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. So when you
Hold on.
share,
Yeah.
I would share a different browser because if you're sharing your Chrome, you're just going to share what you're showing.
Hold on 1 second. I'm apparently I'm the new Joey. I'm doing the I'm echoing. Hold on 1 second.
Hi. Dave.
Apparently I'm the new Joey. I'm doing the I'm echoing.
You finished with the train set? Oh, okay. Okay. That's good.
Dave. All right, everything's closed. Did you have to drive back?
Was that?
You didn't have to drive back, did you?
No, I'm on my phone. We're at the meeting room. Yeah, because when you're sharing your Chrome and it will show whichever tab that you're on and not the video that you're showing. So what I typically do is just, and especially if you want to check the live chat, what you would want to do is open up a different browser like Firefox.
Right.
That browser, and then play the videos or show the photos that you're wanting to show.
The problem is, for some reason, when I go in a different browser, it only shows it from Chrome. I can't live stream from any other browser other than Chrome. I don't know why. I'm trying to do it from Explorer and it won't do it.
Well, when you're sharing on Zoom, you get to select which browser you can share from. So you have to select that specific one. So you'll have plenty of options to share different types of stuff.
No, but what I'm saying is I can't even go on YouTube from internet. The only one I can go on is from Chrome for some reason. I don't know why. It's saying that my browser isn't supported. It only allows me to go on Chrome.
Okay. Have you tried Firefox?
No, but I can download it.
Yeah, it's a quick download and install. Let's see. Meanwhile, let's see if I can share from my phone.
Yeah, and I hid my own window too, like a big dummy.
Let's see. I can't really. I can share web URL maybe. Oh wait. Yeah, the phone is pretty bad. Let's see. Hold on.
I only read this book.
Okay. All right. You can figure it out from here, Dave.
Do your thing. I mean, whatever happens, happens. I'm gonna, I'm gonna do my best.
Sure. Thanks.
Joey signing out. All right. All right, guys, it's just going to take a second. Okay, and I am going to start from like minute 25. How's that? Oh, come on. There we go.
That Julian Assange, if he steps out of the Ecuadorian embassy, wouldn't be extradited. Freedom to Assange.
I think, in my experience, there are two rough points of the state. One is the military, and you know, I spent a couple of years in jail myself, and I shared a cell with a number of armed robbers. And they'll tell you the best use of the weapon. First, they'll tell you that people will stop robbing banks when banks stop robbing people. Very insightful. The second thing they'll say, the best use in a robbery is when the weapon is not fired. So just as though there's a link between peace and justice, and then remember when LA burned, the chant was no justice, no peace. There's a link between violence and peace. Now Walter's been at the rough end of both those places. Walter was a British veteran in the war in Malaya in the late 1940s. He was on exchange into Vietnam with French troops, and he'll tell you the dates, and he was also at the Berlin blockade. But Walter, like many people, like Giuseppe and Jerry Conlon, that Gareth Peirce defended, and Gareth is now defending Julian, was framed, and he was sentenced to 20 years. And it took 6 years for the British state to admit that it was a miscarriage of justice. So I'd like you to give a hand to 87-year-old Walter Hitchen, who's going to see evil destruction. Thank you.
This land of dope and jewellery. I was on hunger strike in Parkhurst prison with Michael Goffman when they killed him, when they murdered him. And I was forced by, after the killing of him, I was sentenced to 22 years imprisonment for something I didn't do, but the accused of being a terrorist and exporting arms and ammunition. In 1977, the Lord Chief Justice Geoffrey Lane and the Law Lords quashed all my sentences on the evidence of Dr. Frank Skews, the Home Office expert pathologist, who was a liar and a charlatan. I was released in 77, and it took 10 years to release the Birmingham 6, the Guildford 4, the Maguire 8, and Darryl Richardson. It took him 10 years after the release, and they knew that all the evidence was false against these people. Well, I asked you, land of dope and jewellery. In the army, we was told in 1948, November, that the terrorists had killed 24 people down in Batangkali, in Malaya. We had to go down and bury them. We went down and buried them. Now, I was gullible, I didn't know those things. And we thought they were terrorists. At the time, 2 years later, it turned out to be murdered by the Scots Guards. And for years and years, a legal team has been at Parliament trying to get compensation for these people, and it's been filibustered out every time. People talking and talking, it's fast. 2 years ago, it went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled it was out of time. It went to the appeal court of the Supreme Court, and they ruled that what the British Army did in 1948, the British government could not now be held responsible for. I ask you, land of dope and jewellery. Well, there's a little song, you know, I used to get arrested when I was on the Vietnam marches down the Grosvenor Square. And I said, hey, LBJ, how many kids you killed today? And maybe it was anybody who was on the marches in Vietnam down the Grosvenor Square. They would do theme songs. Anyway, this is one from the old Vietnam War song. This whole crazy world, it is exploding. Violence is flaring and bullets in the hand. You're old enough to kill, but not for voting. If you don't know what the hell's up done, you're talking. Even the Jordan River's got bodies afloat, and you tell me over and over and over again, my friend, I don't believe we're on the eve of destruction. Don't you understand what I'm trying to say? Can't you feel the fear I'm feeling today? If the button gets pushed, there's no running away. There'll be no one to save the whole world in a grave. Take a look around you, boy. It's bound to scare you, boy. And you tell me over and over again, my friend, I don't believe we're on the eve of destruction. My blood's so mad, it's kind of coagulating, and I'm sitting here just contemplating. A handful of senators can't pass legislation, and marches alone won't bring integration. When human respect is disintegrated, this whole crazy world is too frustrating. And you tell me over and over and over again, my friend, I don't believe we're on the eve of destruction. They told me to look at all the hate in Russia and Red China. Well, I thought a little while, and then I looked at Selma, Alabama. You can leave here and go for 4 days in space. When you return, it's the same old place. The pounding of the drums, the fear and disgrace. You can bury your dead, but don't leave a trace. Hate your next door neighbor, but don't forget to say grace. And you tell me over and over and over again, my friend, I don't believe we're on the eve of destruction. I don't believe we're on the eve of destruction.
All the way from Haringey, London, Walter Heaton. Apparently, when you speak, you got to kiss this mic basically to be heard sometimes. First kiss I've had in about 8 years. Sad enough. But I got one laugh. But he works on Guantanamo, so he needs all the laughs. A lot of us have struggled for many years, and we're often defeated. So it's great to have a victory to go with all that glorious defeat. Being Irish, we've got a whole culture based on glorious defeat. And it's a great pleasure to welcome Laurie Love, if we had a stage, to the stage, who just defeated an attempt to extradite him to the United States of America. Laurie Love.
Hello. Hey. Okay, hi everyone. I'm Larry Love. I'm here today to support my friend Julian Assange, who, as you know, has been arbitrarily detained for over 7 years, 6 years inside this embassy. I'm also here, as Kieran alluded to, because I haven't been kidnapped and taken to a country I've never visited, 1,000 miles overseas, to be locked up for 99 years, potentially the rest of my life, because I was accused of being involved in some online activism. After the death of a very wonderful young man called Aaron Swartz, who was an internet wunderkind who successfully opposed some terrible legislation in the USA in 2001 that would have infringed upon internet freedoms, and who had associations with WikiLeaks. And a year later, because he had committed the crime, in inverted commas, of downloading too much scientific journal articles from MIT, a case was made against him, the Secret Service took it over, and he was persecuted, I believe, to make an example of him as an activist for information transparency and as a person standing up for oppressions on the internet and fighting for democracy. Unfortunately, because of the injustices of the US criminal justice system, Aaron Swartz was facing 30 years in prison and millions of dollars of fines, again for merely downloading scientific articles that he had permission to view because of the problems with the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. Sadly, Aaron Swartz, being faced with a choice that he couldn't accept either alternative of because of the plea bargaining system that coerces and bullies defendants in 97% of cases to pleading guilty and not having their fair chance in trial, Aaron committed suicide because of the injustice and the oppression against him. In response to Aaron's death, there was an activist campaign targeting via the internet US government systems to send a message to reform this criminal justice system. Sometime afterwards I was arrested and by our National Crime Agency, who dressed up as UPS delivery men to break into our house under false pretenses. And a year later I was requested extradition from 3 separate states of the United States, and where I would have faced 99 years in prison. And I would not be here today were it not for the fact that I successfully fought an appeal against that extradition, which I wouldn't have been able to do had it not been for the help of the Courage Foundation, an organisation to defend whistleblowers and activists and to provide advocacy and action for them. And that organisation came out of WikiLeaks and Julian Assange and their support for Edward Snowden after his heroic act of whistleblowing about massive unlawful surveillance of the public. And so because I'm only here because of the solidarity that I have received, and because I'm here despite an extradition treaty between the UK and the United States that does not require a shred of evidence to be shown that any crime has been committed, let alone proved to any standard of reasonable doubt. And as I said earlier, if somebody enters the US criminal justice system at the federal level, their chances of even having a trial, having the chance to have their day in court and acquit themselves is only 3%. So out of all of the people here, less than 5 of you, less than 3 of you would get a trial. And unfortunately there is a very real prospect, despite the fact that it's continuously not denied but refused to even be answered by the Metropolitan Police and the UK government. There is a realistic prospect that Julian Assange would be subject to a similar extradition process. He would not have the opportunity to fight the allegations because the allegations would not be substantiated with any evidence, and he would not have any prospect of a fair trial in the United States. So I'm here today in the hopes that the small victory that I won can inspire other people to fight for Julian and against the United States government, which for too long has attempted to exercise extraterritorial jurisdiction, to be the world's police and to bully the world into believing that their laws can apply worldwide. And Julian Assange could not have committed a crime in the United States, just like I could not have committed a crime in the United States because he has not been there. And all WikiLeaks has done is provide the public with the very thing that it most needs to have accountability and to have justice and democracy, and that is truth. And without truth, there is no power, there is no ability for the public to speak truth to power. And unless truth can be spoken to power, there are always abuses and excesses and injustices. And we have seen throughout the periods in which Julian has been detained that the world has become a far less stable place because of the unchecked exercise of power. And the only way to improve that situation is to continue to fight for truth tellers. And there is no better example, in my opinion, of a truth teller in our current era than Julian Assange. And so, because Julian has fought for the public's right to know what is done in their name, with their money, with power that is taken from them, often to create terrible suffering and misery in the world through wars and other abuses, because of Julian's courage that he has taken on such risk and suffered such persecution in order to give us power. We should feel a responsibility to be just as courageous and to stand up and exercise a will to power ourselves to see that justice is done for Julian, that he continues to receive the rights that is currently being denied under international obligations, under the Vienna Convention, that his asylum is respected and that he is eventually allowed safe passage and to avoid the certain injustice of an extradition to the United States. And so I hope that people will take some courage, that they will see perhaps that I have been fortunate through the help of vast amounts of solidarity and support that I've received from the Courage Foundation, from people like yourselves, from organised campaigning, from the sustained effort and belief from people that justice can be done, that we can apply that hope that victory is possible, and we can support Julian and ensure that justice will be done, because we will say to the powers that be, to the legal establishment of the UK, to the media, to the public, that we will not allow injustice to occur, and that we will continue to fight for the right of truth tellers to continue to empower the public with truth. So, thank you.
Thank you, Laurie. Thank you. Just to introduce the next performer, I think what The Guardian does is try to present Julian as a kind of narcissistic, hyper-intelligent alien life form that's kind of landed like from Krypton or something. And a few of us here have spent time with Julian and visited him and accompanied him to court and have got to know him personally. And of course, the state has now made that pretty impossible to extend under this experience. But I'm from Australia, and I've been in touch with Liz and other people here gathered tonight. And every country, Australia can be quite terrible, quite exploitative and racist and an ecological nightmare. But from all cultures, great beauty is born. And I'd like to welcome a man who was drafted, conscripted, did not volunteer during the Vietnam War period into the Australian Army. And he's going to recite a ballad, I believe, by Banjo Patterson. Yeah? And that Banjo wrote Waltzing Matilda, which another friend here was monstered by the cops for playing on violin under this window. So that's who Banjo Patterson is. This is Alan Jensen. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you very much all for coming. It's great to see a decent crowd here tonight. Not near enough. There should be about 2.5 million people, I think. But we haven't got that, because so many people out there are just not listening. So really, for the people out there who are hearing this, let me say this. At the start of the Iraq War, 2 million of you, a small percentage, marched from London. 30 million worldwide, 300,000 in Melbourne, the largest crowd since the Vietnam War, the highest level of protest. And they just ignored me. Absolutely ignored me. Now, there are people all over, but the rest of the population out here has seen fit to stay home this evening on this extremely important evening. If they think that the process that's applying to Julian Assange now is going to somehow magically go away and get justice, and it's going to happen without 2.5 million of them coming onto the streets, I think that might be a fantasy. So, be warned. It's not just Julian Assange, it's the rest of you. If they get away with this with Julian Assange, it's another major door closing behind them. Wake up! Wake up! I'm not going to make any further speeches because it's already been done and used by 2 people pushed back before me, and that's sung by Walter. although I will reminisce that I have to confess that if I hadn't been, at the time, if I hadn't been conscripted in the Vietnam War to go, I'd have volunteered. Like Walter mentioned there, you know, he was a naive young man and he didn't know, gullible. Well, I was the same. And boy, am I an angry young man now. I can tell you, they absolutely deceived me back then with the yellow peril and the whole bullshit. And as a young person who believed that governments were there to serve the common good and make good societies and they were up there for civilised, decent values, bullshit. We have governments infested with a criminal mentality. We have corporations running governments with a criminal mentality. It's just turned into a cesspool. And if we don't fix this soon, it's just going to get worse and worse. God knows what our children are going to have to live in, what our grandchildren are going to have to live in. So, not to you people here, you're obviously aware, but to the people who are not here, I hope you're hearing this. Anyway, to make it a lighter moment, I'd like to do a little ballad. And on the theme of loneliness, which I'm sure Julian must be feeling a little bit of in there now, he's been 6 years confined to that little room, on our thoughts the whole time. So, something like this. It's lonesome away from your kindred at all, by the campfire at night, when the wild dingoes call. But there's nothing so lonesome, morbid or drear, than to stand in the bar of a pub with no beer. Are the publicans anxious for the quota to come, and there's a faraway look on the face of the bum? The maid's gone all cranky and the cook's acting queer. What a terrible place is a pub with no beer. The stockman rides up with his dry, dusty throat. He breasts up to the bar and pulls a lock from his coat, but the smile on his face quickly turns to a sneer, as the barman says sadly, the pub's got no beer. And the swagman comes in, smothered in dust and flies. He throws down his roll and rubs the sweat from his eyes. And when he is told, he says, "What's this I hear? I've tread 50 fucking miles to a pub with no beer." There's a dog on the veranda. His master he waits, but the boss is inside drinking wine with his mates. He scurries for cover and cringes in fear. There's no place for a dog round a pub with no beer. And old Billy the blacksmith, the first time in his life, has gone home cold sober to his darling wife. He walks in the kitchen, she says, "You're early, my dear." And then he breaks down and tells her, the pub's got no beer. Well, it's lonesome away from your kindred and all by the campfire at night when the wild dingoes call. But there's nothing so lonesome, morbid or drear, than to stand in the bar of a pub with no beer. It's not very fit to be having a laugh on this occasion, but I hope Julian Assange has the last laugh. Cheers.
Recently released from custody in Russia. Peter, where are you? Put your hand up. Oh, there you are. Okay. All the way originally from Melbourne, Footscray, and they won't let him back into Australia. Australia's lost Europe's gained. Peter Tatchell.
Yes, I am very, very glad and relieved to join you here tonight. Until yesterday morning, I wasn't sure if I would be here, because I'm due to appear in court in Moscow on the 26th of June to answer charges that I staged an unlawful protest. I held a placard which condemned Putin for failing to stop the witch hunt and murder of LGBT people in Chechnya. It's lawful in Russia. It's lawful under the Constitution. But President Putin passed a decree 202 banning all protests throughout Russia for the duration of the World Cup. Anyway, I'm here. But the battle I was fighting there is the battle that Julian Assange and WikiLeaks have been fighting here and across the world. the right to free expression, the right of the public to know about grave injustices perpetrated by governments. And what Julian Assange has done is shine a light on government deception and human rights abuses and war crimes which were kept hidden from us by the United States government and military. He has performed a great public service. He has stood for the rights of us, the people, to know the truth. He's published the truth, the facts that we were not allowed to know until he and WikiLeaks exposed what the United States was really doing. So on this 6th anniversary of his incarceration in the Ecuadorian embassy, I join with you in saluting Julian Assange, a voice for truth and justice, a voice who has stood on the very principles on which the United States was founded: government for, by, and of the people, governments accountable to people, the people's right to know. And to think that if he steps outside this embassy, he could face extradition to the United States, where a secret grand jury is being convened to arraign him on charges, serious, grave charges that could put him in prison for many decades. To think that he faces that risk is a shame on the United States democracy. It's a shame on our government for not giving Julian Assange free passage to Ecuador, where he's been granted political asylum. Our government has signed the Refugee Convention. It requires all governments in the world to recognize legitimate, agreed instances where political asylum has been granted. Yet our government refuses to honor that commitment. We need a government here in this country that is accountable to us as well. We need a government here that will honor the Refugee Convention and its principles and will not seek to collude with the United States to ensure that Julian Assange either remains holed up in this embassy or faces the prospect of extradition and imprisonment. That is not the democratic way. That is not the human rights way. We stand with Julian Assange today in solidarity, in gratitude, with full salutations and commendation for the brave, courageous stand he has taken, the sacrifices he has made. Just to think to be holed up in this little room for all these years with no access to the outside world, to take a walk, to do basic fundamental things that we all take for granted. And to still be there, despite the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights, despite being told that his detention is unlawful, unjustified by the UN Working Group, to think he is still there, that is a shame on Britain and the United States, but it is also a great tribute to the man himself. The determination, the perseverance, the courage to take his stand and to not be bowed by state threats, menaces, and intimidation. Please join me in giving a huge tumultuous cheer to Julian Assange.
Thank you, Peter. And I was just talking to Chelsea Manning's mum there, Susan, and she's really been touched by the gathering and really enjoyed it. And she's quite shy, so I asked her to come up, but she's not going to do that. You know, and what she went through over these years, raided by the FBI, harassed by the media, etc. So as Susan and Freddie head towards the tube and head home towards Haverfordwest, let's give a great round of applause to them. This vigil, this is an expression, I guess, of the vigil, and vigilance is about staying awake while society slumbers to danger. And the people who've sustained that vigil over the 6 years, as many of us have come and gone, has specifically been Clara, who lived through the Chilean coup, and Emmy from Greece, and Tom from Galway Island. And before this phase occurred of Julian seeking sanctuary here, many times we went to court with him, and court's a lonely place to go. And the song we always sang was the Dylan song, I Shall Be Released. John from New Zealand is going to do 2 songs, and one of them's going to be that. So when he does that, John's on that.
It's great to see so many people here. Excellent. Julian is not alone. He's not alone. This is a song I wrote last year. I've traveled around the sea. I call out your name, but will you listen to me? I thought I could fight by strength and by might, but will I survive to see you tonight? Executioner stands with blood on his hands. To his conscience he won't listen, so the enemy's won. I'm sorry if there's anything I may not have done. I did what I did so I could see you again. When I die, when your name on my lips, there's nothing more bittersweet than a goodbye kiss. And if they tell you I was better off dead, please remember the love that you and I shared. A priest he waits my confession to make, but it's too late to regret the path that I take. And when I'm gone, many will take my place. For truth is searching for her embrace.
I was born in the US, I was raised in China. Oh, okay. 4 years? Maybe 1 year ago. 5th anniversary. Where was it? Yeah, that was in June 2017. I only came to the UK a few weeks before that, but I remember now. Your name again? Chris.
The bells have told me.
You're covering your mouth.
Bring out the dead. Widows are weak, but it's too late to bed. There's nothing to say that has not been said. And if you don't listen, then it's on your own head. Mercy is how when she cries at the moon. She knew that her master was due back soon. I'm not a sweet innocent to go to my grave, but thank you for trying for my soul to save. I travel around over the seas. I call out your name, but won't you listen to me? I should be released.
Always is the beginning.
Don't know the words in the words, just come along with it.
Many
Any day now, I shall be released. That was the chorus, if you didn't recognize it. Next time around, I hope to hear a few more voices. Yes, every man needs protection. Yes, every man must fall. I swear I see my reflection someplace so high and up the moon. I see my light come shining from the western to the east. Any day now, any day now, I shall be released. That was a bad one. Standing next to me in a lonely crowd is a man who swears he's not to blame. All day long, hear him cry so loud, calling out their laughing friends. I see my light come shining from the western to the east. Any day now, any day now, I shall be released. One more time. I see my light come shining from the western to the east. Any day now, any day now, I shall be released. That's what we hope we do.
Our next speaker, Andy Worthington, is more well known for his book, The Guantanamo Files. And it's quite, I remember at the beginning of this war, it was supposed to be a coalition against terror, and somehow British citizens and Australian citizens, David Hicks, ended up in Guantanamo, and the American John Walker was taken back to the United States. And I thought, that's pretty weird for a mutual coalition. But Andy's going to speak to us about WikiLeaks and its role with revelations around Guantanamo and Guantanamo itself, and then give us a song. Is that correct? Yep.
Thanks, Kieran. Hello, everybody, and glad to see you all here. So I've been working on Guantanamo for 12 years, like Kieran mentioned, over 12 years. It's not as long as the people who've been in Guantanamo. Some of them have been there for 6,000 days. I marked the anniversary with a campaign on Friday. 6,003 days today. In 2011, I got an email that I thought initially was a joke because it came from Julian Assange asking whether I'd be interested in working on the release of some files relating to Guantanamo. So I ascertained that it wasn't a joke and I said yes. And I met Julian and I met the WikiLeaks people and I worked as a media partner on the release of the classified military files relating to Guantanamo, which were a revelation because they confirmed what researchers had found out over many years, and the lawyers knew from talking to their clients, that people, through torture or other forms of abuse, or because they'd been bribed with better living conditions, or simply because they got so tired of being dragged awake in the middle of the night and taken to interrogations, they gave up and told their interrogators what they wanted to hear. The so-called intelligence files on Guantanamo are stuffed full of lies from dozens of repeat offenders, people who, I'm not going to blame them, under the pressure they were put under, people who, for a variety of reasons, told lies about vast numbers of their fellow prisoners. And this whole body of supposed evidence is in fact just a house of cards built of lies. That's the really fundamental, shocking truth about Guantanamo. And I have to say that far too many people still don't know that. Oddly, 1 week after those Guantanamo files were released, the United States decided that it was time to have their final hunt for Osama bin Laden, if it was Osama bin Laden. 1 week. The WikiLeaks files on Guantanamo only had 1 week in the news before the death of Osama bin Laden swept everything aside. And nobody went back and paid any attention to it. I know some of you are the kind of people who have paid attention to it. Now, the files on Guantanamo were some of the files that were released by Chelsea Manning. And I was very glad that Chelsea Manning's sentence was commuted at the end of President Obama's presidency. But what about Julian Assange? The files were handed to Julian. Julian published them. And yet what we now have is the Trump administration apparently trying to find a way in which they're going to prosecute him and throw the book at him. And as various other speakers have mentioned, this is an extremely important free speech issue. Julian's trapped there for 6 years because of this free speech issue. If they can stop us talking about the things that we need to talk about, if they can stop people who get that information out from getting that information out, then that really is profoundly perilous for all of us. Because you know what happens when you don't have any kind of freedom of the media? You get a police state, and that's really not much fun. So, as we stand here and all remember Julian, let's not forget that, and let's make sure that we campaign on that. That this is about Julian, but this is about the rights to freedom of speech. First Amendment rights in the United States, and freedom of speech in general here in the UK. So, for Julian, and as a thanks for those files, this is a song that I wrote about Guantanamo, called Close Guantanamo. If you pick it up, you can join in. Just going to figure out how it goes.
That's your second career.
They said they were the worst of the worst.
6 foot tall.
They didn't know a thing about them. They said that they were captured on the battlefield, but most of them were bought for bounty. They took them to a place outside the law, in a bay that they stole from Cuba. They said they had no rights at all, as they tore up all their laws and treaties, ran up claim to respect the law and treat people this way. So after all the torture and abuse, it's time to make it go away. Yeah. Close Guantanamo, close Guantanamo, close Guantanamo, close Guantanamo. Nice tune, belies the content. When they didn't know what they wanted them to know, they introduced enhanced interrogation, played the music as loud as it would go, in isolation of a sleep deprivation, where they broke them and they made them lie about themselves and their fellow prisoners, had the shame to hold their heads up high, and called this shame and this disgrace a success, and a claim to respect the law and treat people this way. After all the torture and abuse, it's time to make it go away. Yeah. Close Guantanamo, close Guantanamo, close Guantanamo, close Guantanamo. That's first. Obama promised to close the prison within a year, on his second day in office, but Republicans resisted his plan, and he lacked the political will to do it. As the years drag on, and the men still held get older and iller, endless imprisonment without charge or trial is what it always was, a form of torture. Now the future's looking bleaker again, with Donald Trump and his dystopian views. We must tell him that there's no future for this place of torture and abuse, yeah. Close Guantanamo, close Guantanamo, close Guantanamo, close Guantanamo. Thank you. Free Julian!
Okay, at this part of the proceedings, we're going to have a 10-minute break where people get to talk to each other for a change, and then we're going to resume with an open platform. And how we're going to do that is quite in a disciplined fashion. We're going to give people 3 to 5 minutes. At 3 minutes, I'll give you a signal, then I'll go like that, and that's it, okay? Who thinks that's fair enough? Yeah? And we'll start with someone from Ecuador, and then people can come up to me and give me their names, okay? So a 10-minute break. Thank you.
On the road, please, guys. Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange!
Okay, we're resuming actually with our prime speaker, who's not obviously very punctual for lots of good reasons, and that's Craig Murray, a whistleblower, and who needs no introduction. And Patrick was finding him. There's Craig. And we're going to listen to Craig, and then we're going to have a bit of an open platform. And on the list so far is Pat, Christine from Chile, political prisoner, and Arthur. So if anyone wants to give a song, just come up, or a 5-minute speech. Okay, give it up for Craig Murray.
Hello there. I'm sorry to be late. It's a long way down from Edinburgh to come down to the demonstration. I'm delighted I've got here. It's very strange for me to be here, having been here so many times, to see Julian, and to be here at a time when shamefully I'm not allowed to go in and see him, and nor is anybody else, because he is now living in circumstances that amount to close captivity. And there should be no doubt that Julian Assange is probably the greatest editor and publisher of our time. He is a man whose impact on society has been transformational. He has been at the centre of a profound social change, whereby the public are no longer passive consumers of whatever version of the news the corporate and state media choose to feed to them, but rather the public increasingly seek proactively to go direct to the sources and find what is the actual truth about what is happening in this world. And the truth about what is happening in this world is very, very different from the line and the lies and the spin put out by the corporate media. Julian's adventure with WikiLeaks, starting out, I'm quite sure, in a way he never had any idea would get so large, has brought more of the truth to more people than governments could possibly.
Boris Johnson for starting a riot at West Ham United and for claims that I had ideas of grandeur. FTAC had said that I was not Andrew Liar Gilligan's source. I was held in a mental health unit for 18 days. On the 18th day, I had an independent tribunal. Within that tribunal, I produced independent witnesses, a paper trail. Within 10 minutes, that independent tribunal freed me. Since then, I've not been able to get work. I was homeless for 6 years, and I've been targeted. Some of the charges thrown against me since then: threats to kill some of my family, kidnap, theft of my own motor vehicle. I'm lucky that I was housed. But at the end of the day, I'm calling for whistleblower unity within the UK, because at the moment there is none. Julian is up there. I was in a mental health hospital for 18 days. There are other whistleblowers in the UK that are suffering right now, like Julian and like I did. Free Julian!
And our next speaker is from Catalonia, and no. Okay.
If you want to look at Twitter, my handle is @LULInspector.
There you go. Brand recognition. You can Google me too. Anyway, so the next speaker is from Catalonia. That's quite interesting, because the reasons that were given to turning off the internet and the phone and stopping visits were tweets about Catalonia and a crime that occurred in England. And usually, you know, people, there are crimes that occur, and then you have an investigation, then you come to a conclusion, then you charge someone. But of course, you had the tabloid lynch mob. And that's the government's explanation, but that's not the real reason. As a speaker mentioned before, a day before it was switched off, the US Southern Command had a meeting in Quito, Ecuador. So the reasons why wars are fought and the reasons how you get young men and women to fight wars are totally different. You know, as Alan and Walter told you, when they joined the British and Australian armies, they were deceived, and to the reasons to go and kill in Vietnam or Malaya. And but the reasons for fighting wars, of course, is power and gold and plunder. And so, from Catalonia, our next speaker. Yep.
Hola, Julian. Sé que estás ahí. Y no es casual que yo esté aquí tampoco. Primero de todo, quiero darte gracias de parte de muchos catalanes. Quiero darte gracias porque fuiste el primero en implicarte. El 1 de octubre, la brutalidad de la policía española que cayó encima de abuelos, de padres, de hijos que simplemente querían ir a votar, a dejar su voto en la urna. Tú fuiste el primero en implicarte. Gracias, Julián. Y por eso, yo sé que también, en parte, por eso estás ahí. Estás peor que en una cárcel, y eso no es justo. Y de parte de muchos catalanes, estamos contigo. Aunque no estemos aquí, estamos ahí. Y sepas que estamos haciendo cosas también en Cataluña. Wikileaks y Julian Assange son los, como diría, catalizadores de la democracia. Hay que fijarse en estas cosas. No hay que dejarse redimir por aquellos que han manipulado tantas veces la prensa, la televisión, con imágenes absolutamente falsas. Tú fuiste uno de aquellos y tú estás ahí ahora. Y tú estás ahí ahora, pero de alguna manera te tenemos que rescatar de ahí. No hay acción. Tenemos que hacer algo. Julian, otra vez, gracias.
Okay, right at the end, and it's very rare that good people of good heart gather in such numbers, even small ones. And so what we're going to have is just short announcements of other meetings or gatherings for social justice, and that'll just be 20-second sound bites probably. And then if anyone lives near Manor House and can help us get the amps back, that'd be great. It'd be good to have some people with good backs, otherwise you're going to leave it to two Aussies with bad backs. And Roland and people. So, okay, announcements.
Thank you. I'm from the London Guantanamo campaign, and I just want you to make a note in your diary that the 26th of June is the United Nations Day for the recognition of the victims of torture, and at the American Embassy at 6:30 till 8 o'clock in the evening there will be a vigil for all the people that have been tortured in the world. And it's good that I'm asking you here, because without Julian, a lot of those tortures would have been done without anybody knowing. Thank you very much. So if you could put it in your diary, 26th of June, the American Embassy, the new American Embassy, which is a load of... but if... Thank you. 9 Elms. Yeah, thank you. It's between 6:30 and 8 o'clock in the evening. Thank you.
What date's Donald Trump in town? Huh? 13th, okay. Hillary Clinton's in Dublin on Friday, if anyone's in Dublin on Friday. We're going to conclude with a suggestion from a person here that we go, and we know from when we still had communication with Julian, that's been gone for 70 days, that we shouldn't be abusive to the embassy or the ambassador, but we should all go over under the window and say, we're with you, Julian, in a very disciplined, non-violent, positive way. Okay, so off we go, lead the charge. You don't need a leader. I'm an anarchist. Off you go. It's like herding cats, really. And thanks everybody for coming. It's been grand.
And the role play. Thank you for We're with you, Julian! Thank you, Julian! Thank you, Julian! We're with you, Julian! We're with you. Thank you, Julian. Keep up the good work. Stay strong. Hang in there. Strong, hang in there.
We do this on the count. We'll do it together, yeah? 3, 2, 1. We're with you, Julian!
Again.
Julian Assange! Hang on in there!
Right guys,
diamonds, but missing links.
All right. Okay, everybody, I'm gonna have to go. Hopefully, if Evan shows back up, he can restart it. But yeah, I have to go to work. So let's see here. Just want to make sure he didn't contact me or something. And stick around for a couple more. But thanks to everybody that's been listening. Thanks to everybody that's been going to vigils and rallies and been retweeting, and everyone on the Unity for J team. Everybody who has been involved. Thank you so much, and I will see you. Sometime soon. So, Evan, yeah, I have to shut down for now. Hopefully you'll be able to start back up in a short bit. But thanks everybody for listening, and I will see you soon. Thanks everybody. Oh, wait a minute. He didn't make me host. I don't want to leave. Crap. He didn't leave me as host, so I don't want to just let's see here. I thought I could actually shut it down, but let me see. Yeah. I guess I can stick around for a few more minutes. There. I don't want to just leave it. Oh, crud. Ugh. All right. Well, dang, I can't even make you host. I thought I could. So, Eric, can you hear me? All right. Eric? All right. Okay. Well, I thought I could actually assign you the co-host, but I can't. I'm going to have to shut down because I have to go to work. So please just let Evan know that's going to just keep going. I'm going to leave the meeting. I have to get to work on time. So, and I don't hear Eric. So, sorry about that. I got to go. I hope people can hear me.
All right, that took a lot longer than I thought. Thank you, Dave, for being able to stop in and help out. I'm kind of busy with some stuff. I'm sorry. We will continue with part 2. Find any coverage that between now and our next airing, and keep covering stuff. All right, I'll see you guys later.